Hello there. I'm Maverick. I am the pilot of a plane that has a great partner in a goose who is a weapons system officer. He died, unfortunately, but he got better. I welcome you to the Gump Report, episode 17. I have a need, the need for the Gump Report. Originally I was going to do Goose, and I did, in actually 2 videos before, I did Goose, and then I went off on a tangent on something else entirely, and I lost it. But welcome to the Gump Report, episode 17. You never know what you're going to get, and this is about WWE24 and the Miz Documentary. Now, I got to be careful because I've done this now twice because I went off and drifted away from the goal of this video was to talk about Miz and his documentary and what you thought about him. How did I feel about the documentary? It actually was done quite well, and it gave you a very good insight, other than Miz and Mrs., what the real Mike Mizanin was like and what he had to suffer through, and he had to suffer. You could say a lot about Miz, but the guy busted his ass to get where he is. Mind you, right now as he stands, he sucks. It's because of the booking. It's not his fault. This is Bruce Pritchard. This is Vince McMahon. This is Kevin Dunn. And remember, this is what few writers that are allowed to write for him. Allowed to write. Because in many cases, there are very few writers that are allowed to write anything out of what Bruce and Vince allows anymore. Because there's no diversity in the writing anymore. It is so Bruce and Vince. I don't know why they have 32 writers that write for the show, but then Vince literally destroys what they write and writes something himself. I don't know why he has them. It makes no sense. Now, I have to say this. Because of what's been going on with the Oscars, I gotta be careful because I went off on a tangent once and then I started doing it again twice and I had to stop myself. So I gotta be careful because of how Miz is now roughly like a movie star, roughly, because he's not doing top blockbuster movies. Before the pandemic, of course, he had been doing small, low-budget movies through WWE, and then he did Miz and Mrs. He done The Real World, and I gotta say this, right now, movies suck ass. Very few movies were good. If anyone's seen The News of the World with Tom Hanks, you might like it. That movie I did like. It was a little funky at one point, but it wasn't bad. It's actually a good movie. But almost any movie that's been coming out sucks because of how Hollywood and actors and actresses, and I say this, there's nothing wrong with having a diversions of the genders. They're thespians. If you don't understand what a thespian is, that is a person that portrays himself. It doesn't matter what they are, male or female. They portray themselves. That is what acting is. True thespians. And unfortunately, many actors and actresses don't act like them. Look at what happened with, I believe, the Oscars. It was so bad, no one cared. The Oscars have been going down for years. Mostly due to the fact of all this equality and diversity. Let's be honest, the reason it happened is because people like Weinstein got their asses handed to them, and they deserve it. And now, supposedly, Hollywood wants to make up for over 100 years of bad behavior by letting women have what they want, and men still getting screwed over that are just in the same position as them, and also people of color. True diversity, true equality, isn't about every 5 minutes saying that we are diverse and we have equality. What you do, make the movies normally. You don't have to show that you're being diverse, just don't have to say it by showing it. Showing it by saying it, you just show it and make sure the movie is written properly. People are not doing that anymore. So when it comes to The Miz, and I'm reverting back to him, because I went off on a long one on the first one. When it comes to The Miz, he came in The Real World. I remember watching The Real World on MTV when I did still have television and cable, because at one point I had no cable, guys. You don't have no money. You basically living with nothing. You got bills on your ass. You can't watch anything except the antenna TV. You know my life. So when I did watch The Real World back in the late 90s into the early 2000s, well, late 90s, briefly, because my ex-wife kind of liked it, I saw The Miz. I saw Mike Mizanin walking around going, "Ugh, I'm The Miz." Let's make this in perspective. If you want to know if this is a good documentary, it actually is. It shows you how Mike Mizanin started. And the one thing that was interesting, because if you did see Miz and Mrs., I have seen it. I've seen Total Divas. I saw Total Bellas to get an idea of what they're showing. And I saw Miz and Mrs., which is, if you're going to be honest, it does have a few moments where it's funny. But to me, it does get on your nerves after a little while. It will piss you off. Because we're still dealing with Mike Mizanin. He has a good heart, but he's a pain in the ass that's a prick when he wants to be. He just is. But in the thing that gets me, unlike my own biological father, he never even said a damn thing to me. He just cursed me out as a kid. Mike's dad, when he was young, brought home a bad report card. He crumpled it up, threw it away, and said, "It's cool." And Miz says, "Wait a minute. You're not going to chew me out?" And says, "No, you're just dumb. You're going to be stupid." And that just got to the Miz, and he became someone that is willing to do whatever it takes to prove that he can be whatever he wants. Unfortunately, I didn't get that gift when I was a kid. My biological father personally didn't give a damn. Think about what his father did tenfold on myself. I was treated very bad as a child. Very badly, honestly. I'll give it to you like this. Due to the fact that I was dyslexic, even though I was quite intelligent, I was dyslexic. And due to the child abuse, unfortunately I had it, my mental faculties were maybe 4 or 5 years behind many children because abuse will do it to you. My biological father used to say when he told me to go and get something, and before he even says what it is, he says, "You better get it right. I don't want to have to tell you. I send you to the ocean to get a bucket of water and you won't bring back nothing." That's what he used to say. He used to say very cruel things. But for the Miz, I have to compare myself to him. He had that one moment where his father said, "You're just going to be dumb." And he proved he was not, which made both his parents proud, which is a great thing. He said he's going to do whatever it takes to be whoever he wants to be. And he, most cases, became an overachiever. Then he went to the real world. And he still became, in a sense, overachiever by being a stupid nut, loving wrestling, and creating the Miz. And they do show what happened to him when he tried to get into wrestling. He went to, what was it? Ultimate Pro Wrestling. I believe it was UPW. That's the one he started. I could be wrong, but I do believe it was UPW. And he started there. He had his chance to build himself. He went on Tough Enough and lost. Then was brought back as a... Y'all don't even remember this. Honestly, I've forgotten that he was a host of SmackDown. I totally forgot. But he did that until they let him finally wrestle. And this is where the documentary gets very interesting. We've always heard that The Miz, because he was a reality TV star, because he's well known in real world if you were into that, they didn't treat him well. They could not stand that someone from, in a sense, television or Hollywood, that's what they considered him, was trying to come here, was never originally trying to go through what they went through, going through wrestling, or at least some type of fitness or sports, and try to get in that way. Going through real world made them think that he was just going to be someone who's going to use the WWE as a stepping stone. Ergo, what happened with The Rock. Ergo, what happened with a little bit Stone Cold Steve Austin. Let's be honest. A lot of wrestlers use wrestling to become a famous star. Hulk Hogan. You got Who else was it? There was several people. It's hard to keep up. The Undertaker was once in a movie with The Undertaker. I mean, I'm repeating The Undertaker. When it came to The Undertaker, he worked with Hulk Hogan on, I believe, Suburban Commando. He did do it. Then you had Roddy Piper, who did Them. I love that movie. It's an underrated movie. It's stupid. It's a B movie. It's stupid, but it's still a funny, good movie. You should watch it. Then you have Jesse the Body Ventura, who did Predator. You always will see a wrestler going from wrestling into movies because it's easy to transition. Look at The Rock. He's the most successful star in history that came from wrestling. Now John Cena's doing it this is The Rock. This is John Cena. Let's be honest. John Cena in the last couple of years has actually gotten some good roles. Look, he's going to be in Suicide Squad 2. He did Fast and Furious. I think it was 8 or 9. I can't remember. He's been getting better traction as an actor. And back then, before any of that happened, someone like him was considered death. They could not stand him. They wanted him gone. They wanted him dead. And for 7 months after he stated, this is what he states in the documentary: no one liked me. They all thought I was a nobody. They thought that I should just leave, and they made it hard for me. One day, I was in the locker room just eating some chicken, and one wrestler, he didn't say who it was, said, "Hey, you're eating on my bag. You're getting food on my bag." Then another wrestler came in and said, "How dare you put food on his bag?" And they're getting angrier at him, and at first he said, literally, I thought they were joking. And then I realized they weren't joking, and I apologized. But then they told him, "I don't think you should be dressing in here anymore." So he had to dress either in hallways, broom closet. He said at one moment at one of the events for SmackDown, he was dressing in one of the stalls where all the fans are, and a kid was waiting for him because he realized he was in there as he was getting dressed. That would destroy someone's credibility in here. More than just humiliating them outwardly. That could destroy a person's ego badly. But with The Miz, it didn't work. He refused to back down from it. He just became more and more. He really worked hard. He even credited, this is the thing, John Cena, you could say a lot about him. I've already have on my video with Mauro Ranallo and John Cena. He's going to do whatever he takes to politic. No better than Hogan, no better than Austin. But you can't deny that he, even though he made the decision to be like a Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, which he should not, which damaged the business, he loves the business. There's no way you can deny that. You can't say he doesn't love this damn business. He does, even though he's not doing it right now. Not constantly. He made it very clear that John Cena helped him when he was wrestling him. He learned about how the crowd was because John Cena started in 2002. The Miz started, in 2000? Well, John Cena started in 2000. He finally got on the roster in 2003. He became really good by 2008. So he'd been around for a while. When it came to The Miz, he had been in it very, very briefly, became a host, then allowed to go through that, then not even be allowed to even work with anybody properly, and not even being allowed to go into the damn locker room anymore because they just didn't like him. They hated his guts. They wanted him dead. They wanted him gone. So you can say a lot about The Miz, and you can say a lot about John Cena, who literally, and you'll see if you watch the documentary, that he says clearly, Cena really taught me a lot about how to deal with the crowd, how to recognize the crowd, how to work in the ring, how to work the crowd. I learned from him. And I also learned from, I thank The Undertaker, because before I was allowed back in the locker room, The Undertaker had a match with me and I earned his respect. And I asked him, I would really like to come back in the locker room and learn like a sponge, suck it in. And The Undertaker said, all right. So he had to earn his way in. And I remember in 2011 is when he was the hottest. After he wasn't with Morrison anymore. That is when he was his best. At least until 2016, until the notorious talking smack moment with Daniel Bryan, where both of them are not lying. Daniel Bryan does not like The Miz. Mike Mizanin as a person, he respects him, but he doesn't like him. Like I said, Mike Mizanin can be a freaking prick and a pain in the ass. Highly annoying. He even said it himself. When you first meet me, I can rub you the wrong way and be a pain in the ass and an asshole until you get to know me. He says it himself. And I respect that. He knows what he is. You know, I'll give you an example of something. When I was young, I went through what they call in New York FedCap. The Federal Education Department. That's what I believe it was called. At the time, they changed it by now, even though it's still called FedCap if it still exists. And I met a guy who was in the college football. He was a linebacker. He was going to go to the NFL when he was finished, but he had a car accident. And he lost his left leg up to the knee. And I asked him, how did you handle it? I didn't understand. How did you handle it? And he told me this. And I still think of it today because now I'm disabled. I can't work anymore. And I still remember this today. When it happened, I learned very quickly. When you are a butthead before you have your accident get hurt, you're a bigger butthead afterward. You're way bigger. So in a sense, for me personally, I've always given to others. And once I had my accident, I wanted to give more to others, but I wasn't happy. I had to learn, since I've been like this, guys, 11 years, to go beyond just taking care of other people and just ignoring myself because I don't want to deal with myself. Before my accident, before I got disabled, I never wanted to face myself, deal with myself. After this, even more I didn't want to do it because I wanted to help everybody else. And even though I have my moments to go back to that, at least I recognize it. Now, the Miz didn't really have a serious injury other than the concussion he received when he was with John Cena in his match when he got his first WWE Championship. They showed it a lot. And if anybody remembers that whack to the head, when he hits the ground and you heard like it was a melon hitting the floor, it was bad. I can understand why he can't watch it. He said himself in the documentary, I can't watch that back because I don't remember anything. It really upsets me to see myself like that, and I don't know who that is. It's not me. Even though afterward, John Cena checked on him, the trainers checked on him, and he said he couldn't remember anything. And The Rock checked in on him. He said, don't worry, you can't remember anything. He had his hand on his neck. He said, don't worry, I'll tell you what happened, how well you did. And he gave him a hug and a kiss. He said, I'm there for you. That means a lot. He earned their respect. And by 2016, he had that notorious talking smack talk where he legitimately said, and, well, like I said, Daniel Bryan does not like The Miz in real life. But he does still respect him as a wrestler. And he even calls him an underrated wrestler. That he can wrestle. He's underrated. I've always said that myself. He's not perfect in the ring. But he is underrated. This is the best. This is where he is right here. There's nothing wrong with being there. He's not here. That's half. He's here. And there's nothing wrong with that. And Daniel Bryan says, look, he was frustrated because he's the Intercontinental Champion. He has Maurice at his side before she got pregnant with their first child. What was her name? I can't believe I'm blanking on his name. Madison. There you go. And he wasn't being seen. And Daniel Bryan realized it wasn't right. So he approached them, or they approached each other and said, look, there's got to be something we can do. What can we actually do? And pretty much they pushed each other's buttons. And The Miz even said, I thought he was going to hit me in the face, but he walked away. And that infuriated me even more from that segment. And he had the camera in his face. And that is when people changed their mind about The Miz. Now, that was 2016, 5 years ago. What do we have right now with The Miz? Not a lot. It's not the point if you think The Miz is still great because he's doing something with John Morrison doing, hey, hey, ho, ho. No. Most of that did come from them having the restraint and constraints of Vince McMahon. Let's be honest here. It's not like the middle of the 2000s when they were both paired together and they did the dirt sheets. That thing's already been done on YouTube and that's already been done on WWE. They're stuck in a company, and this is Morrison and The Miz, in a company where writing is almost non-existent. That it's only, in some input, Kevin Dunn, and some input easily, Bruce Pritchard, and the one who makes the final decision on whatever these two is Vince McMahon himself. Vince literally is telling them what he wants, not what would be great for the fans, what he wants. So when it comes to The Miz, he's incredibly boring. Incredibly not annoying in the sense where you hate him as a heel, but annoying in the sense that he's not good now. Not because he's not willing to change up what he does. I'm sure Vince is telling him, I still want Miz TV. Maybe he's already told Vince, I don't want to do Miz TV anymore. I want to move on. And he says, nope, you're going to keep doing Miz TV because I want this. I want that. I want this. And if he's stuck in that, he's going to try and make the best out of it like a John Cena. That's one thing I do believe that The Miz has gained from John Cena. The ability to take the shit they give you in writing and try to make the best out of it, even if you don't like it, even if you think it's garbage. Because look what happened in 2016 when he won the title in 2011, had the concussion, and 3 months later dropped it. He had nothing. He was here. And then he went down until 2016 when he went back up for about a year and a half to maybe a year. I say about a year and a half. And where he is now, he's here. And that's not his fault. It isn't. Miz is stuck with what Vince, Kevin Dunn, and Bruce has ordered him to have. Because that's the way it works now. Remember, you guys don't know how bad it is in WWE. They have released 10 people already. You don't get any extra money from third-party companies anymore. You used to. You used to make good money along with the merchandise you would get and along with any increased raises you get that you used to have. There's no more third-party companies anymore. Merchandise, you're not getting that anymore. You're not. They're not getting the amount of merch money they used to get because it's been cut. They're not even getting they're getting something when they do like live shows anymore because they're not doing it yet. Until WWE decides to, or Vince decides to simply pull back on all that, maybe let them go back to third parties again. Let them do Twitch. Let them do Cameo and whatever else they want. Then let the merchandise they're getting better sales because they are traveling. They get better sales. Maybe he'll lift the restriction on how much they get because they're only getting the guarantees of their contract. Now, you know what that is? Just in case you don't. A guaranteed contract, if I understand it correctly, I could be wrong, you guys can tell me below. When they sign for 1 year, 2 year, 5 year, or 10 year, they have a certain set price of $50,000, $100,000, $500,000, or $1 million a year. And then they can supplement that by live shows because they get extra when they do a dark match or a live show when they're not being filmed. They get money when they do the pay-per-views. They do get some money. That's still standard today. Their merchandise, and then third party. These are the wrestlers, not the people who do production. Now the wrestlers don't get third party. They're not getting as much merch money as they used to. They're not doing dark matches like they used to. And many of them are just sitting in the back waiting to be seen. So they're not even seen on pay-per-view where they're not even getting money from that. So they're not getting money from pay-per-views because many people are not being used. They're not getting money from special or live events or dark matches because they're not doing that either. They're not getting the same amount of money from their merch. They're not. Because that would all add in. And then 100% they're not doing third parties anymore. Oh, I think I just said third parties twice. But they're not getting it anymore. So whatever they had, which let's say a person gets maybe $200,000 or $300,000 a year, maybe 5 or 6 year or 4 year contract. So they get $300,000 to $400,000 a year. That's over $1 million eventually. They would get more than that in a year. Instead of getting $300,000 to $400,000, maybe they get $700,000 or $600,000 from everything together. And now they're just getting the guarantees and very little merchandise and very little pay-per-view if they even go on it, because they're not getting live events. They're not getting pay-per-views, many of them not getting live events, many of them not getting pay-per-views, many of them getting very limited merch money, and many of them can't even do third parties anymore. They're stuck. They can't even do Cameo or Twitch where they could supplement. Vince has now forbidden it. Now, many of them messed up, but still Vince could have helped them and he's done nothing. So the only person that's getting something right now is The Miz, because he has Miz and Mrs. That was going on well before the pandemic happened. So he's still making money. Maurice, she is now just come back into the company, so it's kind of hard to say what they allow. I don't know if she still has a contract or not. They may renew the contract and maybe she works something out where she keeps whatever merchandise she's doing, which is tied into the reality TV show of Miz and Mrs. It's hard to tell. So they're doing good, but then at the same time, Miz is not, because the company sucks. It is incredibly hard to watch WWE. I barely watch it. You guys know I only do pay-per-views. I used to watch SmackDown. I couldn't stand Raw. Now SmackDown is bad. And the only thing that's good is Roman Reigns. That's not enough for me to keep watching. The Miz is not enough to keep me watching. NXT the way it is. Anybody thinks NXT is doing well, it's not. It's not the same NXT. It's bad. So why am I going to watch? I want to watch WWE and add it to what I'm doing, but why am I going to do that? But taking away from all that, was the documentary well done? Great lighting, great camera work, great sound work. The story itself for how Mike Mizanin started and was treated and how he became what he is now was well done. If anyone hasn't seen it, I would recommend you see it. But it's just me. Have a good day. Have a good night. And watch my NWA Power Review tomorrow. Count on whenever I can see it. Peace.